Hello, everybody. This is a presentation of Cluster 1, Destination 3, Tackling Diseases and Reducing Disease Burden. Please note that this presentation is purely advisory and that only the text of the work program has legal value. So please always refer to the work program and to the topics in the Funding and Tenders portal when developing the proposals. So I'm going to give you a quick overarching goal of Destination 3. So Destination 3 aims to tackle diseases and reduce disease burden. So communicable and non-communicable diseases cause the greatest amount of premature death and disability in the EU and worldwide and pose a major health, societal, and economic burden. Therefore, there is an urgent need for research and innovation to develop new preventive measures, public health interventions, diagnostics, vaccines, therapies, alternatives to antimicrobials, as well as to improve existing preparedness and prevention strategies to create tangible impacts, taking also into account sex and gender-related issues. Calls for proposals under Destination 3 are directed towards key strategic orientation, creating a more resilient, inclusive, and democratic European society of Horizon Europe Strategic Plan 21-24. Research and innovation supported under this destination should contribute to the impact area, good health and high quality accessible healthcare, but it could also be relevant to other impact areas. Proposals for topics under Destination 3 should set out credible pathways to contribute to the expected impacts such as reduction of health burden of diseases in the EU and worldwide, reduction by 1/3 of premature mortality from non-communicable diseases by 2030, promotion of mental health and well-being, strengthening of research and innovation expertise, human capacities and know-how for combating communicable and non-communicable diseases, reduction of health threats of epidemics and AMR pathogens in the EU and worldwide, an increase in patient and citizen knowledge on disease threats, allowing them to be involved and empowered to make and shape decisions for their health and to better adhere to disease management strategies and policies. Overall, Destination 3 has 8 topics in the work program for year 2023. There are 6 research and innovation actions and 2 coordination and support actions. All of these topics will follow a single stage evaluation process, and the closure date for all of them is on the 13th of April, 2023. Importantly, the next part of this presentation is going to provide a brief summary of all of these topics, and the order of appearance of this presentation is in the order of appearance of the work program. So let's start with the first topic in order of appearance. So palliative and end-of-life care approaches improve quality of life of patients and professional and family caregivers through the prevention and relief of suffering by means of early identification, assessment, and treatment of pain and other factors, such as physical, psychosocial, and spiritual problems. Although a variety of interventions are in use, they are not often adequately validated or adapted to the specific needs of patients affected by complex diseases or or multimorbidities. Therefore, a need exists to strengthen the evidence base for available patient-centered effective interventions. Proposals under the topic Novel Approaches for Palliative and End-of-Life Care for Non-Cancer Patients should aim to deliver results that are directed and contribute to the expected outcomes, such as reduced healthcare suffering and improved well-being and quality of life of patients, early and better access to palliative or end-of-life care services of higher quality and cost effectiveness, improved evidence-based and information-driven palliative care joint decision-making processes, and reduced societal healthcare and economic burden that is beneficial for citizens and preserves sustainability of the healthcare systems. The proposals under this topic should cover the effectiveness and cost-effectiveness of pharmacological and non-pharmacological interventions to improve well-being and quality of life of patients. Randomized clinical trials and observational studies, which are targeting different age groups, should also be considered for this purpose. Moreover, for the proposed work, all legal and ethical aspects need to be considered and fully addressed. The proposals should prove the feasibility of integrating the proposed interventions in current pain management, palliative and/or end-of-life care regimes and healthcare systems across Europe. Furthermore, the views and values of patients and their caregivers should also be appropriately taken into account in patient-centered care decisions. Identification and analysis of relationships between sex, gender, age, disabilities, socioeconomic factors in health, and any other relevant factors is expected, as well as analysis of barriers and opportunities to reinvigorate and enhance timely social inclusion and engage patients and their caregivers. The proposal should also present strategies and guidelines of patient-centered communications for health and social care professionals, as well as standards for evidence-based communication training for caregivers. The topic requires the effective contribution of social sciences and humanities disciplines in order to produce meaningful and significant effects, enhancing the societal impact of the related research activities. Please note that proposals focused on cancer-related research are not in scope of this topic, as this was already covered by a specific topic in the work program 21-22. Let's move on to the next topic. So the next topic is called Interventions in City Environments to Reduce Risk of Non-Communicable Diseases. Importantly, the European Commission is a member of the Global Alliance for Chronic Diseases, and this topic is launched in consultation with the other Global Alliance for Chronic Disease members and is aligned with a current call published by the Alliance. Cities provide tremendous social and economic opportunity and have the potential to become engines of good health and support climate change adaptation. As such, innovative health-focused programs, policies, infrastructure, such as, for example, public smoking bans, bikeable streets, or green spaces, can shape the behaviors of millions of people and decrease exposure to environmental contaminants. Proposals under this topic should aim for delivering results that are directed to the following outcomes. Firstly, specific guidelines to implement health interventions that decrease risk factors of non-communicable diseases associated with city environments. Also, improved insights and evidence on non-communicable diseases caused or impacted by city environments and which factors influence the implementation of preventive actions that address risk behaviors in concerned city populations. Specific interventions that can be better adapted to different city environments and how these could be scaled up within and across cities. Moreover, it should also lead to evidence-based strategies and tools for promoting population health in equitable and environmentally sustainable ways. And lastly, the last expected outcome is that it leads to the implementation and taking up of individual and/or structural level interventions and thus contribute to better health. Moving on to the scope of the proposals. So, proposals under this topic must focus on implementation research with the potential to reduce the risks of non-communicable diseases in cities in low and middle income countries and/or vulnerable populations in high-income countries. Applicants need to select one or more cities in which the research will be conducted, as well as one or more evidence-based interventions known to reduce non-communicable disease risk factors associated with city environments. Furthermore, proposed interventions should be adapted for selected study populations based in one or more cities, considering the unique social, political, economic, and cultural contexts. Proposals should also provide a research plan for investigating how to promote the uptake and/or scale-up of the interventions in the selected study populations, an appropriate strategy for measuring both implementation research outcomes and real-world effectiveness outcomes and indicators, and a sustainability plan or a pathway to sustain the proposed interventions. Moreover, a commitment to stakeholder engagement and planetary health should be demonstrated in the proposed work. Not only this, but also proposals need to be gender responsive and consider socioeconomic, racial, or other factors that relate to equitable impacts of the intervention or barriers to the implementation. This topic requires the effective contribution of social sciences and humanities disciplines. Moreover, the proposed interventions of focus may fall under one or both of two specific themes. Theme 1 comprises behavioral change interventions that help people living in cities maintain good physical and mental health despite infrastructural, environmental, climate, and social challenges. Theme 2 are interventions that focus on modifying the built environment to improve its health promoting potential. In this theme, proposals should aim to inform urban design such that it reduces non communicable disease risks. In this regard, please note that proposals that opt for Theme 2 are intended for research that helps guide the implementation or the scale up of proposed interventions. Therefore, the execution of infrastructural interventions, for example, constructing a bike line, would not be in scope of this topic. So let's move on to the next topic, which is on pandemic preparedness. So as shown by the COVID-19 pandemic, infectious diseases remain a major threat to health and health security in the EU and globally. Viral disease emergence is expected to accelerate due to, among other, climate change, and thus a proactive approach to the development of antiviral therapeutics in preparedness for future infectious disease outbreaks is needed. The availability of broad-spectrum antiviral therapies would provide a critical preparedness measure. Proposals under this topic, called Pandemic Preparedness and Response, Broad-Spectrum Antiviral Therapeutics for Infectious Disease with Epidemic Potential, should aim for delivering results that are directed at the following outcomes. First, knowledge on viruses with epidemic potential and a better understanding of different potential mechanisms of actions for the development of broad-spectrum antiviral therapeutics for these viruses. Secondly, novel approaches for the development of antiviral therapies for emerging and re-emergent infections. Third, experimental broad-spectrum antiviral candidates against emerging or re-emergent viral infections for further clinical validation. And fourth, a diverse and robust pipeline of broad-spectrum antiviral drug candidates with the potential to increase therapeutic options for the clinical deployment in case of an epidemic or pandemic. So let's move to the scope of the proposals under this topic. So the proposals submitted under this topic should develop and advance broad-spectrum antiviral compounds, as well as novel approaches to the development of such compounds, which target viruses with high epidemic or pandemic potential. These should cover viruses for which there are currently no available effective therapeutics, or for which the currently available therapeutics are suboptimal. Proposed research is expected to incorporate state-of-the-art screening technology and innovative approaches to identify new targets for antiviral compound development. Additionally, emphasis should be put on repurposing of previously approved or in-pipeline drugs. Preclinical work and proof of concept first-in-human studies and early safety and efficacy trials for testing new or improved antiviral therapeutics is expected for this topic. Moreover, when possible, innovative delivery systems and suitable safety profiles for broad use should be considered. Lastly, in the scope of this topic, proposals should also pay special attention to critical social factors, including sex, gender, age, socioeconomic factors, ethnicity, migration, and disabilities. It is also important to note that on the 22nd and 23rd of November, the Commission organized a multidisciplinary workshop on the development and availability of broad-spectrum antivirals as countermeasures to prevent and tackle pandemics. The report of this workshop is published, and a link to it is provided under the frequently asked questions of this topic in the Funding and Tenders portal. So the next topic is again on pandemic preparedness. This one is on sustaining established coordination mechanisms for European adaptive platform trials and/or for cohort networks. The COVID-19 pandemic has also illustrated the importance of clinical research preparedness, as well as the benefit gained from the coordination of European clinical initiatives. Two key pillars of such clinical research in pandemic preparedness are clinical trials and cohort studies. As such, this coordination and support topic will lead to the following expected outcomes: appropriate coordination mechanisms among different EU-wide adaptive platform trials and/or among established cohorts with a view for better pandemic preparedness and response. harmonization of studies within respective networks for maximum research efficiency and optimal evidence generation, and coordination of relevant networks with the European Pandemic Preparedness Partnership. The proposed work should focus on maintaining and strengthening existing strategic coordination mechanisms across adaptive platform trials and across cohort studies, addressing proper connections with relevant European initiatives and organizations. Proposals should foster a trusted and proactive environment within the coordination mechanism that supports the timely exchange of research results, allowing for discussions and ensuring cooperation and synergies within each network. Moreover, the development of a common approach for European clinical research and promotion of an optimal use of resources across European clinical trials and/or cohort networks should also be addressed in the proposals. Applicants should also demonstrate involvement with the relevant networks, stakeholders, and initiatives in Europe and, if relevant, worldwide. Finally, proposals should promote the visibility and attractiveness of European adaptive platform trials and cohorts for clinical investigators in Europe and beyond. For the next topic, we'll be talking about brain health research. So, the coordination and support action topic, titled Towards Structuring Brain Health Research in Europe, aims to establish a coordination mechanism in the area of brain research, which could take the form of a future European partnership on brain health. The other expected outcomes of this topic include that policymakers, funders, and other relevant stakeholders build on the knowledge gathered in the past studies performed at EU and national level, identification of common research priorities and research needs among such stakeholders, the development and alignment of national and regional research strategy plans with long-term sustainability in mind, and the commitment of policymakers and funders to provide financial support that will allow for a comprehensive, impact-driven structuring of the field of European brain health research. Proposals should pave the way for a possible future partnership and develop a structured system of exchange of information between policymakers, funders, and other relevant bodies in order to establish synergies and avoid duplication of effort. Moreover, proposals should develop a strategic research and innovation agenda, considering the efforts already undertaken by EU-supported actions. Proposals should also include plans for a governance structure as well as implementation modalities with long-term sustainability of a future partnership. This coordination and support action should reflect the umbrella role of a future initiative that will structure brain health research in Europe. Therefore, to make it more impactful, proposals should ensure a broad geographical representation of European countries and plan for inclusion of all main related research initiatives, as well as key organizations and associations in Europe and beyond. This topic requires the effective contribution of social sciences and humanities disciplines in order to produce meaningful and significant effects, enhancing the societal impact of the related activities. The next topic is working on the relationship between infections and non-communicable diseases. Increasing evidence suggests that several infections might influence the development of many non-communicable diseases, such as multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, or post-COVID condition. Or as well, that non-communicable diseases may be influenced by concurrent presence in the same individual of one or more infections. On the other hand, non-communicable diseases might also represent risk factors for infectious diseases. Proposals under this topic should aim at delivering results that contribute to the following expected outcomes: a better understanding of the links, such as, for example, casualties between infections and non-communicable diseases and comorbidities, development of new or improved tools to diagnose and prevent the development and aggravation of non-communicable diseases, early treatment and management of patients suffering from comorbidities following an infection or infectious disease, and preventive measures on early identification of disease onset and of those patients at risk of developing severe disease progression, and on the optimal treatment of patients. Proposals should focus on a better understanding of the causative links between infections and non-communicable disease onsets and/or the impacts of infections on the exacerbation of existing non-communicable diseases or vice versa. Any type of infection, viral, bacterial, or fungal, with or without pandemic potential, can be studied together with non-communicable diseases of major importance. The proposed research should be conducted in children and/or adults and integrate genetic analysis, immune status, immune or inflammatory responses, microbiome, lifestyle, and other relevant factors in order to get information for prevention, early diagnosis, risk factors, and to better understand causative links as well as the progression of the studied diseases. Additionally, special attention should be given to vulnerable individuals, such as those with known pre-existing conditions. Preclinical research, observational studies, and/or clinical studies can be considered for this topic. Proposals could include patient follow-up to identify conditions that may appear only after a patient has recovered for the infectious disease. Please note that research on cancer is excluded under this topic, as it will be covered by the Mission on Cancer. The next topic we will be talking about is on understanding vaccine-induced immunity. So, the availability of effective vaccines that are able to induce a strong and durable immune response is critical to respond to health threats. As such, a proactive approach is needed to understand the factors that affect vaccine durability and strength to ensure the development of effective vaccines for future infectious disease outbreaks. Proposals under the topic Pandemic Preparedness Response Understanding Vaccine-Induced Immunity should provide expected outcomes related to better knowledge of vaccine-induced immunity, including a better understanding of factors that affect the magnitude, breadth, nature, and duration of immunity to vaccine antigens. Additionally, durability and breadth of vaccine-induced immunity in vulnerable populations and older age groups. Identification of correlates of protection that can be used to develop vaccines against viruses meeting the criteria for pathogens with high pandemic potential, and parameters and characteristics that influence vaccine effectiveness to allow for novel approaches for the vaccine's development. Proposals under this topic should study vaccine-induced immunity in the general population and vulnerable groups and look both at the magnitude and the breadth of initial immune response and the duration of immunity after vaccination with different vaccine types. Proposals should also address how sex, for instance, male versus female, pre-postmenopausal, age, childhood versus adolescent or elderly, and/or lifestyle affect the immune responses. In order to foster a deep understanding of vaccine-induced immunity, a multi-omics approach should be pursued. Proposals should also identify correlates of protection that can be used to develop vaccines against viruses meeting the criteria for pathogens with high pandemic potential, as identified by the Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Authority, HERA. Proposals should also aim to improve the global vaccine research and development pipeline for emerging and re-emergent viral infections and to strengthen the current leading role of the EU in vaccine development. The next topic and the last topic of this presentation is also on pandemic preparedness, and this one specifically on immunogenicity of viral proteins of viruses with epidemic and pandemic proposals. Proposals under this topic should aim to contribute to the following expected outcomes. First, a better knowledge on viruses with epidemic and pandemic potential and an understanding of viral targets for vaccine development. Second, novel approaches for the prevention and treatment for emergent and re-emergent infections. Third, access of the scientific and clinical communities to experimental vaccine candidates against emerging or re-emergent viral infections for further clinical investigation. And fourth, a diverse and robust pipeline of vaccine candidates against emerging or re-emergent viral infections. Proposals should identify targets for optimal vaccine design for those pathogens where information on host pathogen interaction and viral surface structures is already available. The list of viruses to be studied is included in this slide, as well as in the work program and the topic in the Funding and Tenders portal. Proposals are expected to identify key antigenic targets for these priority pathogens. Animal models for the testing of vaccine candidates where alternative models are not available should be either improved or established and used to characterize the immunogenicity of antigenic targets. Whenever possible, proposals should also include proof of concept studies of the vaccine in humans. And with this, I would like to thank you for watching this video on Destination 3. We look forward to replying to any of your questions during the live session. You may also reach out to your national contact points for the health cluster with any other questions you may have. Please also remember to keep an eye out for the frequently asked questions published under the respective topics in the Funding and Tenders portal, as this may contain important information for the development of proposals. We thank you for your attention and wish you success in the preparation of your proposals.